Today I'm going to be sharing 3 altcoin picks that I believe can outperform the market during the month of March. Now I won't just share what these coins are, I'll also give my reasons why, and we'll also do a quick recap to see how February's picks got on last month. Now if you do enjoy the video, please do drop a like, subscribe to the channel, but let's get started by reviewing those February picks. So the first pick in last month's video was Injective, and the reason behind this was mostly around the development of the ecosystem with some big players like Hydro set to launch. Now to be honest, Injective was a tiny bit disappointing in terms of the price action, just because it fell in line with most of the other players in the market and wasn't too exciting, generally speaking, for the month of Feb. However, we did see a green return with the peak from last month's video being at around 20% and currently sitting at around plus 12%. So not bad by any means, but it definitely wasn't an outperformer for Feb. However, I do think, although it's not featured in today's video, with Mito Finance also set to launch in the coming week or two, it's definitely worth keeping on the radar. And the second pick for Feb was the cursed coin of Jupiter Exchange. Now myself and many other people have had trouble trading this choppy price action during Feb. And to be honest, I think it's important to share the losers and the winners. This is why we do this at the start of each video, for complete transparency, to make it clear that nobody has a 100% win rate and it's just not a realistic target. So at the time of recording, we've seen a return of minus 4% at the current price from last month's video in Feb, with it peaking at around plus 18%, but that was the day after the video when volatility was at its highest. So not the biggest return, of course, not an outperformer by any means, but important to include. And on a more positive note, the last pick from February was Ace or Fusionist, and things are looking a lot more positive around this one. Now, we talked about the 4-step guide for new coins launching, and it took a little while to play out, but it feels like we're finally getting somewhere. Now, the peak for this coin was actually at around 34%, and that was actually earlier today, and we're currently sat at around 28% gain from last month's video. We've seen some choppy price action, we actually seen some downside before it picked back up again, but things are actually looking very positive right now, and I think this could be worth keeping hold of for March. So the first coin on the list for March is going to be Multibit, otherwise known as Moovit, which is essentially a bridge that allows you to transfer your assets multi-chain from Bitcoin to other networks such as Ethereum. Now, I believe with the Bitcoin halving around 50 days away, that BRC20 coins could see another rise. I feel like Multibit is in a good spot here because people often overlook the top couple because the valuation is over a $1 billion market cap, but they're a bit scared to go too low into the low cap gems as such, and Multibit just fits nicely third on the list, around $120 million market cap, and people feel like there is potentially good value and good room for upside there, including myself. So Multibit is the first pick, and I believe that the chart also is looking pretty primed. So we're taking a look at the 12-hour time frame, and one thing we're looking for is a break of the downtrend. So ever since the hype topped out around Christmas time, we've seen a downtrend whilst other coins such as AI took the lead. Now what we can see is now we have finally started to see a breakout and more promising price action. Now if we was to break out of the descending wedge and we actually found that price was to make another low, that would be bearish, a fake out, and nothing to really pay much attention to. But we made the low here, which was very positive, and from there we were looking for a higher high, and what we've done is actually broken the high, the more recent high here, and at around 13 cents, and that is what we want to follow up on now. Now if we was to get a retest of this level as support, I think that would be the perfect entry, somewhere around here, before making that next leg up. Now, it isn't always given that if hype picks up, we get the retest, so sometimes people prefer to maybe buy 50% on the breakout, 50% on the retest. That way, if the retest doesn't come, at least you have some exposure and you're not kicking yourself. So I think in this position, it's very hard to say ape in right now because we've seen plenty of upside. You'd like to think there would be a retest or at least some kind of pullback, but it isn't guaranteed. So that's how I'm looking at the chart right now, and I think if we see that retest, that is a great opportunity, and then it could be from that point that this would be your next best bet. And the second pick for March is going to be Taubank. Now, full disclaimer here, I am an early investor and this is a low market cap project, so there is definitely more risk with potential of more reward. Now, the reason I've included it in this video is for a couple of different reasons. First of all, it is within the Tau ecosystem, and Tau being the leading AI project in the space when it comes to market cap at least. So I think getting some exposure to this ecosystem very early could be a huge AI play. Now, a lot of the AI coins have ran recently, people think they've missed the boat, so this could potentially be another entry to get some AI exposure. Now, the interesting thing here is it is a new project, it is a first mover, it is the first lending protocol within the Tau ecosystem. So although it ticks that box when it comes to AI and Tau, it is also a DeFi application and ticks the DeFi narrative as well. So I think when it comes to the fundamentals, there is a huge amount of upside here potentially, in my opinion, because of the low market cap and what it is actually offering to that ecosystem. Now, when it comes to the chart, we'll take a quick look now, but it is very early days, only launching a couple of days back, so there isn't a great deal of data to work with. So we're not going to spend too much time looking at this chart because we are looking at the 30-minute time frame, and ideally I'd like more price action to unfold over time. But when looking at the time frame, one thing that springs to mind is that 4-step guide that we've talked about with new coins in the past. We get the initial dump and from there we watch things play out. Now, what we've seen so far is, of course, a pump on launch, followed by impatient investors, potentially early investors, selling off and showing that downtrend. Now, what's interesting at this point in the early days is we're actually seeing a potential breakout similar to the multi-bit price action we just discussed, and a potential retest of the range lows flipped into support for a reclaim. This could very soon be shown as deviation around this area. Now, the thing is, this chart is going to look very different by the time this video goes live because I'm recording around 5 hours ahead of time. We're going to see another 10, 30-minute candles by that point. But what I'd be looking for now is for this area to hold as support. I'd like to see range lows hold as support around the 54-55 cent area, and from that point on we can potentially run it up to the range highs and go from there. Now, that would be seen to me as an aggressive entry because, of course, it's very volatile, it's a low cap. If you want to be more conservative rather than just aping here and being aggressive, you could wait for a flip of the range highs. Now, you're going to be buying at a much higher price, but I think at that point the strength will be clear, and when we get that, you know, the first target is going to be the all-time highs. If things are still looking good when we get there, you know, you may decide to hold and run it into price discovery, but it is too far away to say how that will play out. I just think at the moment, you know, you're focusing on the range lows, you're focusing on the range highs, and from that point you can make a pretty decent decision. And the third and final pick for this video is actually going to be Ethereum. Now, some people may see this as a boring pick, but I do think there is some good upside for March. Now, I'm not going to go through the fundamentals and explain what Ethereum is. We're just going to head straight into the charts, starting with the weekly. And this is something that I shared on Twitter because I've seen, of course, many people were looking for a retest. We got so many opportunities to retest this key level here at around 2.2k. If you didn't take it, that's entirely on you. And from there now, we've seen that upside. Now, I think we've got a pretty clear run to around 3.5k. And then from that point, we can assess how strong things are looking. And then from that point, we're probably looking at 4k. Now, when we drop this down onto the daily, because we want to look for more lower time frame entries, I think the most obvious one and the best case right now is going to be here at around $2,650. I think that's like the best case for the near future. If we get that is another question, but I think the other areas you can look at are these daily order blocks here. So we're looking at 2.85k, maybe around there, 2.8k, and here at around 3k. So it really depends what your style is, how aggressive you want to get. If you're already sidelined, of course, if you're already loaded up, GG. But I think, you know, for a retest here, that's the first area of interest. If we dip lower, that's where you'd want to load up more. And if you did actually get a flush down here, I'd imagine that to be a wick eaten up very quickly if it was to get that low. And then from there, potentially keep going. But it may be like we've seen with Bitcoin, there is no retest, we just keep going straight to 3.5k, and from that point we may cool off at a higher time frame level of resistance, before then potentially breaking it. But overall, I do think there is a good month ahead for Ethereum versus USD, but now we'll also look at Ethereum versus Bitcoin. So there is no doubt that Bitcoin has been outperforming Ethereum for some time now, but the chart is starting to potentially show signs of that going the other way, which adds to the bullish argument of Ethereum starting to look a lot more promising. Now, despite Bitcoin's strength recently, Ethereum's actually managed to keep up, something that it's not managed to do for a long time. Now, if we look at the chart here, we can see again on the weekly time frame that this downtrend has been running since September of 2022, and now we're starting to see signs of a bottom. And if we can break, we've already broke the trend line here, but for me that isn't enough. I don't like to just work on trend lines. I like to see horizontal confluence. So the most obvious level here lies at around 0.06. If we can flip this now and follow up with that, I think that would be the optimal entry for me. Not too aggressive, not too conservative, before seeing further upside, potentially running it back to around 0.08 and beyond, hopefully, as an Ethereum bag holder. Now, I do have Bitcoin as well. Seeing them both do great versus USD is obviously optimal, but when it comes to the outperformance of them one versus one, this is exactly what I'd want to see for potential further upside. So that is all for today's video. Hopefully these 3 picks work out extremely well. If you did enjoy the video, please do drop a like, subscribe to the channel, comment and let me know which coins you think will outperform the market during the month of March. But with that being said, please do trade safe, invest safe, and I'll catch you in the next one.